Hey guys, Andy here from Mediocre Hobbies coming at you with the first epic video. I mean, it's called Legions Imperialis these days, but epic is what we should all fondly know it as. As you can see, Games Workshop have very kindly sent me out quite a large collection of bits and pieces for me to make content around, share with you guys, and hopefully get you interested in the new Legions Imperialis game system. So, what can I say about Legion Imperialis from the first outlook? So the first thing people need to understand and kind of grasp is the concept of these miniatures are tiny. And I don't mean tiny like, I mean tiny. There's no way that you can kind of put the amount of effort that you think you want to put into these miniatures. So the first thing I would tell everybody is to scale back their expectations for how they plan on painting their miniatures. You are going to need hundreds and hundreds of models to play a game of Epic. And they do sell them in models. So for instance, Legiones Astartes box set, which is just a basic set of Imperial Space Marines, contains 106 miniatures. That's a lot of dudes. So that's actually what I'm going to tackle in today's video. The first thing I'm going to do is the infantry block of Space Marines, 106 miniatures, and I'm going to paint them in one sitting. Start to finish, the whole thing. And I'm going to show you the standard that I think most people will want to take their miniatures to in order to get quite a large amount of miniatures painted fast and be able to start playing this epic game. See what I did there? So I've already had a little tester myself. I painted a pair of Sicarans, which I had an absolute blast doing. I was worried they're literally the same amount of detail on a Sicaran shrunk down. So it obviously made me a little bit nervous, but I managed to paint these with 3 paints. I'm not even joking. 3 paints. And I actually put this in an email to Games Workshop to see if I could get onto the community article. So if it does end up on the article and you see my tank there, you know that it was only 3 paints used to paint them. And I think that's the way that a lot of people should tackle Legiones Imperialis, so that they get their large collection of miniatures painted really fast. So stick around, check out this video, see if you like the results that I achieved from painting my 106 Space Marines really fast, and see if it's for you. Before I get into it, huge thank you to my patrons. You guys are absolutely amazing. I could not be here without you. If you're interested in getting involved with that, there are links to it below. You get access to a private Discord server and an extra video every single week just for you guys. So the Patreon members will get kind of different Legion paint schemes, different tanks painted up, some of the Solo Auxilia stuff painted up. They'll all be private videos for my Patreon people only. Okay, without further ado, let's paint 106 Space Marines. That seems crazy to say, so let's get into it. Okay guys, so here is the infantry box for the Space Marines for Legions Imperialis. As you can see, I have already cut out the little parts to make the 2 contemptors on each sprue, so 4 contemptor dreadnoughts, as obviously those are multi-part pieces that I want to glue together before I start painting. The infantry I'm going to paint on the sprue. They have very cleverly been designed that the tabs that hold them onto the sprue are connected underneath the feet and underneath the little base plates, which means you can paint them on the sprue without having any extra like cut off bits to deal with at the end. It's a very clever, and I do think that was obviously perfectly intentional, and the idea was that you were meant to paint them on the sprue. I'll obviously be doing up a whole heap of bases as well to match in with them. The new Legions Imperialis basing system is really nice. Obviously the bases have to be very, very thin. If it was a normal sized kind of 28mm, it would be like the base lip would be like 8 feet tall compared to the miniature. So that'd be super thin, so it makes sense. After that, I sprayed the whole sprue black and then kind of like a pure white color. So whatever white color you want to use, the one you're most comfortable with. And then I grabbed my Imperial Fist contrast. This is my favorite yellow contrast for getting Imperial Fists done, funnily enough. And now I'm going to take my time and paint the Imperial Fist yellow contrast across the armor of every single Space Marine on the 2 sprues that I am painting here today. I may not go back and forth between both sprues because they're just copies of each other. I will basically be showing you one sprue, but as I will have been painting both of them at the same time as I went along. So Imperial Fist yellow across all these tiny Marines. It only takes a couple of seconds per model, but there is, like I said, 106 models in the box set, so it will take a little bit of time. So I'm going to speed up some footage now. This isn't just me going into turbo mode. I'm painting super, super fast. This obviously is the first row of dudes. Is the command squad. You can see a sergeant. You can see a banner bearer. That's a veteran Marine there with the plume. His bolt rifle, or his bolter. Assault Marine sergeant next. So after you get them all yellowed up, the sprue should look something like this. And as you can see, it already makes all the models pop. They look fantastic. I'm going to be doing the same thing to the Contemptor Dreadnought, who was sprayed exactly the same, black and then white. And then the
Imperial Fists yellow contrast will be painted over all the armor panels of this beautiful little piece. Now I want you to keep in mind as I go through this, the size, because I obviously, as I was painting these, was so worried about how they would turn out, what they're going to look like. And I think a lot of people are going to be painting Legions Imperialis with the models in their hand and be kind of displeased with the results that you're going to get. Obviously, they're so small, it's so hard to get any meaningful detail. And I think contrasts are your way to go. They're going to make your life a hell of a lot easier and give you better results when it comes to the finished product. But you also have to remember that these are supposed to be viewed hundreds at a time. You're supposed to look down at a tabletop and see hundreds of miniatures. You're not supposed to be paying that close of attention to each individual kind of bolter marine. And obviously, as you're painting them, you will be looking at each and every individual bolter marine. So please just let that slide off. The way I've been kind of justifying it in my head is that if you've seen any of the example armies, the things that stand out are the beautiful little tanks and the titans and any of those kind of specialist things that are a little bit bigger. That's where you can lavish a little bit more attention on, and that's what's going to make your army pop. No one's going to look at an Imperialis army in a cabinet and be like, oh my god, that bolter squad is amazing. It's just not really how it works, I think. But I'm extremely proud of my tiny Sicarans. I'll show you those guys later on in the video and play that idea of putting a little bit more effort into those and seeing how they stand out. I've got some pictures of the models at the end with the Sicarans in the picture, so you can see what I mean by that. So here I'm obviously flying through with my Black Templar contrast paint. I'm basically painting up every other part of the model that isn't yellow, except for things like plumes and capes and stuff. They're going to go red in a little bit. So all the guns are going to go black, which is basically the main thing on most of these models. And then of course there's bits of the banner and some jump pack vents and a few other little bits and pieces that we want to hit with the Black Templar contrast as well. From here we are going to go into Blood Angels contrast. And this is, like I said, for all of the plumes. All the veteran marines for the command squad have plumes on. All the sergeants have plumes. It's a very heresy era style thing, legion style thing to show them off and make the officers stand out. And then obviously when we jump down to the tiny little Terminators, which are Cataphracti Terminators, we want to do like the tassels underneath them. They've got them under their arms and underneath their waist as well. So we're going to take a little bit of time and make sure that we get those done as well. While I'm waiting for that particular layer of contrast to dry, I'm going to jump over and have a word from the sponsor of today's video, which is of course Air Hobbies. Air Hobbies is a fantastic independent stockist store here in the beautiful country of Ireland. They stock absolutely everything you could possibly need for your hobby needs. So whether it be any of the paint ranges, whether it be any of the miniature ranges, tools, glues, anything you need, these guys have it. If they don't have it, you better believe they're going to get it in. Every single week I see these guys increasing the range of stuff in their stores. I follow them on all their social medias, and that's where they usually share with me via their Instagram stories. Every Saturday I find out what new goodies they have in store that I can order up for myself. That's very exciting. As of the launch of this video, obviously these guys will be taking pre-orders from the Legion Imperialis range at a nice little discount. So if it's something you're interested in getting involved with and you're from Ireland, please consider checking out the link below, going to their website and pre-ordering your stuff there. If you're seeing this video at a later date, they're probably still stocking it. Have no worries. Still jump over to their website if it's something you want to get involved with and have a look. These guys are a long-time supporter of the channel, so a very big thank you from the bottom of my heart. Ireland could definitely use a couple more independent stockist stores like this, so hopefully in the near future we will of course get some more. Okay, now back to tiny little Space Marines. So like I said, I got all the red done on the Terminators, all the plumes, all those kind of bits and pieces. And so far the models are not looking half bad at all. We're going to now jump over to some Retributor Armor Gold. And this is a color that won't be used a lot across the models. It's just for kind of hilts and pommels of some swords. And then if you think about the command squad, it has a few nice bits and pieces. So obviously the captain has a nice sword. He's also got basically an Iron Halo style motif above his head. The banner has a banner top. You want to paint that in gold. And a few other bits like that. Just any of the elite guys might have a little bit of something that you want to choose to put in gold, just to make them stand out a little bit more and make them look a little bit more ornate. From here, we're going to jump over to Lead Belcher, and this is where we're going to use this, a little bit more of this than the gold, obviously, because we're going to do the blades of all the swords. But then also, every single Marine, I would like to add a little bit of silver too. And the bits that I chose to do for my Marines was the kind of chain bayonet they have on the end of their bolters, and the clips from their bolters. So just a tiny touch of silver on both of those parts. Across both sprues, we'll add just that little touch of silver into the army or the models that you want to see. Once again, I know it's 106 dudes and that may seem kind of tedious, but like I said, it's not like painting 106 normal bolter marines. It's like one brush stroke per part. So it's like clip, done. Chain bayonet, done. Next guy, clip, done. You know what I mean? It's very quick. We're not looking for this kind of perfect example of a bolter here. I mean, most of these bolters are like molded into the back of the marine. So if you look behind it, you're going to see something you don't want to see. Hence why the idea of leaving the bolt guns black means that bit that fades into the back of the model, you just don't pay attention to. Whereas if you go in there and paint all the bolters just like completely silver, after you've done the bodies yellow, there'll be this gap between where the bolter is supposed to end and the body starts, which will be filled in. And then you'll have to make the decision of whether that's armor color, whether that's silver. Either way, it's going to stand out as wrong. But if you do it in the black and then just add a tiny touch of silver over the top of that, it works a treat. After that, I just grabbed some Nuln oil. This is the new Nuln oil, please. I know it's been quite a while since we've changed over Nuln oils or shades. This is the 18 mil pot, which is a much thinner consistency. If you grab your old pot of Nuln oil, which is 24 mil pots, and you do this technique, your models will look like Black Templars. They will go so dark, and that's not what we want. It is the 18 mil thinner Nuln oil. And I've even mixed that with a little bit of water to make it even thinner again. I basically just want to have black run into the recesses and the gaps in the armor and leave the armor itself as yellow as possible. Please consider this is a very light coat of Nuln oil, just to add a little bit of definition into the models. Nothing crazy. It does work a treat though. You can already see the top, the left hand side of the sprue with the shade on, and the right hand of the sprue doesn't. The difference, that kind of almost like mustardy yellow there, versus these guys that are shaded. I think these Marines look absolutely fantastic as they are right here. Super pleased with them right there. And of course, carrying through that same idea with the Contemptor Dreadnought, we did do the yellow on him, so we're going to go with the Black Templar and paint in that. So obviously all the joints and stuff from the back, his power vents, power pack, his generator, the back of him is going to get done in black as well, and obviously whatever gun he has mounted to his right arm. So there's 4 of these little guys to do, so you're going to take your time and get through all of those as well. You do get a tiny set of transfer sheets with the set. It's why my command squad has banner transfers and why my Sicarans have little Imperial Fist symbols. I don't know if they're quite small enough for these guys here. I may actually go back and check. I didn't do it for this video, but I would like to add some iconography somewhere for these guys. And I know they're tiny. Like I do a comparison later on with this guy next to a Space Marine Terminator, and sometimes you forget how small they are. Even though it's in my hand, you can see my fingers next to it, and it's clearly tiny. Until you put it next to something that you know the size of, you really can't fathom how small they are. Okay, now it's time to move over to the bases. This is very simple. I was tempted to leave this as a Patreon only video, but I decided that you guys need to know how to paint up these bases. It's going to make a huge difference in your models. And I think it's a super important step for the infantry. So like I said, the infantry aren't going to be these beautiful works of art. But if you put a little bit more time and effort into painting the bases so the bases look really nice and draw a little bit of attention away from the models, I think usually it's like the opposite. We don't want that. We want darker bases so we don't take attention away from the models. But I think in this case, I think it's the right thing to do. So I started with Sandry Dust, and I'm using this sponging method. It's basically like a heavy stipple across the surface of all the bases until they look something like this. Then we're going to jump up to Screaming Skull. I'm basically doing the same thing again. We're just getting lighter. So you can see it's a slower press from me. Slower movement as I'm trying to be much more controlled with how I apply the Screaming Skull to these bases. It's just going to brighten it up, and it's trying to give that kind of limestoney, marbly style look to the bases. This will of course be the same kind of method I'm thinking about painting up the gaming tiles that I want to play on. So my base will match in with my gaming tile. You can go a little bit too heavy with these, but usually it doesn't matter too much. You just wipe it off and then just stipple it in again, and it'll kind of blend out, no problem. We're going to push this even further, and we're going to grab our Wraithbone paint, and we're going to do a final stipple across all of these, or sponge. I don't know whether it counts as sponge or a stipple, but yeah, Wraithbone is even brighter again. And as you can see, I'm going to go extremely light with these particular pieces. It's just a couple of dabs, just to once again add a little bit of highlight. Now obviously when they're glued to this base here, or blue tack to this base here, and there's like messy paint all around them, they don't look the best. But as soon as I pull them off this and I rim the bases black to neaten up those edges, and you got to look at one completed base, I think they look great. I'm really, really pleased with how they look. And it doesn't take long at all. You could blue tack your entire collection of bases to one of these boards, get a big sponge and just go to town. You could have all your bases done in 20 minutes, half an hour maybe, which I think is a pretty good result for getting them all done and out of the way. And here's one of the bases here, and as you can see, I'm just going around with a nice finely pointed brush, some matte black paint, and I'm painting it on the rims of all these bases. Just want to take your time. Once again, these bases are super thin, so it doesn't take nearly as long to rim them as it does for the normal GW bases, which are much, much fatter. Even some of the designs drop the edges down even smaller. As you can see here, there's a little step built into the design, which I really like. I know this might seem tedious, but it's definitely worth the time. Here's what a finished base looks like. Super nice. You could obviously go in and do metallics or do a bit of verdigris or something in some of those designs if you want to push it even further, but I wasn't too crazy on it. Okay, after that, it's now time to start cutting out the Marines themselves. So you just want to take your time, do it squad by squad. Don't get all these guys mixed up. So I'm going to start with a tactical squad. Legion tactical squad. So with this box set, you're going to get 2 units of 20 Legion tactical Marines, and all you want to do is, like I said, cut them out of the base and then run your scalpel along the bottom, making sure that they're super smooth and flat. The reason that this step is important is obviously because they're so small and the bases that you're putting them on are flatly designed. If they kind of have a little bit of flash underneath them and they're like raised up a bit, it's going to be super noticeable. So spend the extra minute or two running your scalpel underneath it, making sure it's super smooth. A dot of super glue, and then you can start gluing your Space Marines into position on these bases. This is of course another step which is going to take a couple of minutes, because obviously each step is very, very quick, but there's 106 models. So once you've done it across the board, I actually had some bases left over. I don't know how I did my math, but I painted too many bases. So here I am with my 2 squads of 20 Marines. Then I have my 10 Terminators, my 10 Plasma guys, my 10 Assault Marines, and 10 Heavy guys with rockets, 4 Contemptor Dreadnoughts, and then my 2 command squads at the bottom. I also put, like I said, my Sicarans into the table. And that's the idea I was talking about a little bit earlier. When you're looking down on a tabletop full of cool models, it's these things that are going to stand out. It's going to be your little Dreadnoughts and your little tanks. And the infantry is just going to be, I think, widely ignored. Here he is, little tiny guy next to my thumb. And like I said, I wanted to show you him next to a Terminator so you can get a sense of his scale. Okay, now hopefully it settles into you how small these things actually are. So here's one of the command squads done up with the transfer on the banner. A little bit of weathering done, and yeah, I think they look pretty cool. Passable. Like I said, they don't look like 28mm miniatures, but if you look down on a tabletop, you can clearly see that as a command squad for the Imperial Fists. Here's a tactical Marine, or half a tactical Marine squad with the Sergeant in there with his red plume, his nice sword, his bolt pistol. And here's the little Sicaran. This Sicaran was painted using 3 colors if you exclude the little blue window. Yellow contrast, black contrast, dry brush silver all over, done. That's all I did on this thing, and I love the result. I did 2 of them so far. I have 2 more of them to do, and I just can't wait to get stuck in. I'm going to put a lot of attention into, like I said, my vehicles, my Titans and stuff. So when you look at the force as a whole, it's going to look pretty good. A couple of cool images to finish it off. Here is my Space Marine detachment in the flesh. And as you can see, even in photos, I can't get in close on the infantry. They're too small. It's got to be taken as this big collection of things, which I'm okay with. Once you understand that, the concept, you know, a little talon or a squadron of Contemptors there, and then my Sicarans, which I think could pass as larger Sicarans in these photos. I think they look so good. Not to toot my own horn, but I really like how these turned out. And then of course I put it next to an actual Sicaran, and you can see the true scale of them, which is, like I said a million times in this video, tiny. Hope you guys enjoyed this one.
And there we have it, guys. My first Space Marine detachment for Legions Imperialis is now finished in a single sitting. I did them as Imperial Fists, as they are my favorite Legion, and they are very easy to paint at this scale, which is nice. I'm really happy with the result I achieved from these guys. Obviously, if I hold a squad of 5 guys up to the camera, he's not going to look particularly good. But as I'm sitting here now, and I'm looking down on the tabletop at the swathes of armored Space Marines marching away from me, they look very, very cool. And I think that's exactly how you should take epic miniatures. Not how they look like in your hands or up close and personal. When you're looking down on a battlefield and you are seeing hundreds and hundreds of miniatures on the table, how does that look? How does that make you feel and make you want to play? So like I said, I'm super pleased with the result. I hope you guys are too. I hope you learned a little bit, and it's going to help you get some of your Space Marines painted from Legions Imperialis. I will be doing a huge amount of content around this game system. As you can see, Games Workshop has very kindly sent me out quite a lot of bits and pieces to get through, and I want to share as much of that as possible with you guys in the coming weeks. So if that's something you want to see, make sure that you subscribe to the channel so you don't make out. Turn on the notification bells so you don't miss any of my uploads. Make sure you like this video so it gets out to more people, so we can spread the joy of beautiful epic miniatures. And ask me any question you want in the comments below, including letting me know what you would specifically like to see me do up as a video. I'll be more than happy to help you guys out. All right, thank you guys so much for sticking around to the end of this epic video. I'll see you in the next one.